Boker Or, Masechet Gittin Daf 44A1. We're starting on the second line, which is 2 dots. Tanu Rabbanan. We learned in a Braita. Giva'o bechovo. What happens if an Oved Kochavim, which means a non-Jew comes and he collects the slave with his chov, right? So now that means that the master does not want to give over his slave, but the guy comes and he says, sorry, you owe me money. Boom, he takes the slave, right? Or shelokecho sikrikon, or a sikrikon took him. Sikrikon is a non-Jew bandit, which he's basically like a rotzeach, he's a murderer, and he takes him in order to leave tot nafsho. He comes in order, instead of taking the master, he says, I'm going to take your slave. So he was taken. Lo yatsa lecherut. He does not go for cherut. He doesn't go free. Why? Because even though we learned in the Mishnah that if you sell your goy, you sell your slave to a goy, he goes up free. Here was not done with your will, right? You didn't want to. The guy came, he took it as a collateral, or this bandit, I don't know what you want to call it, the mafia comes and he takes it against his will. Extortion, thank you, an extortionist. So that's it. So we're not going to make him a knas. So says the Gemara, uvechovo lo. Are you going to tell me if they took it against his will, he doesn't go al lecherut? He doesn't go free? Or we have a contradiction. If right now the house of the king comes and he takes bekoach, the goren of Israel, the goren is the storage places of a Jew, so it all depends. If it's going to be that he's taking it because of his, it's basically like the IRS, which are taking it because of a chov, because of his debt, you have to take off trumot u'masrot, right, on that which was already taken. Because since the melech, right, was mochel chovo because of the tevuah, so it's kilu, you sold it to the king, right? One more time. You owe money to the IRS, right? The IRS comes and they took money away from you. It just came in. It was your salary. They took it away from you. Are you going to tell me that you don't have to pay, how do you call this? You don't have to pay, take off maser? For sure you do. Why? But since he took it away from you because of your chov, so that means you just paid back a chov. But that means you used that money. There was a benefit from that money. So therefore, you have to take off maser from it. Im parut. But if it was just stam, listen, they needed some extra cash. So boom, they just take it away from you, right? That means not because of a chov. You don't owe any money. Just stam. But Tumina said, here you don't take off maser because it's not considered that you paid off. You didn't gain from this, right? Completely nothing. Okay. So it answers the Gemara, Shane Hatam, it's different over there. Right? That the person is going to be ne'eneh, the person is benefiting from the fact that the tevuah which he had to take off masrot, if it wouldn't have been taken away from him, right, it would have been taken a chelek of his chov, and then the rest would have been money in his hands. Therefore, he's chayav to take off maser, that which was taken. But by an eved, right, we're not going to obligate the adon to come that he gained in the fact. Why? Because the dina eved, the knas was that he was mevatel oto min mitzvot. But here, he didn't do midato. One more time. What was the eved? The eved was, you have a person that he bought a slave, eved kanani. Once he buys a slave, he becomes chayav mitzvot, like a woman, right? But he becomes chayav mitzvot. If you come and you now sell him to a goy, you just took him away from doing mitzvot. So the rabbis gave you a knas. If you come and you sold him to a goy, he goes off free. Knas, it's a penalty. Says the Gemara, in our case, if it was taken against your will, right, there's no knas. Ask the Gemara, what are you talking about? I thought if you're going to be taking something, right, as a chov, right, so then yes, you have to take off maser. If it was taken not as a chov, then you don't have to take off maser. So the same thing, since this eved was taken away as a chov, so therefore this is something good for you. So answers the Gemara, no. The reason why is because the entire concept is that you're benefiting, right, when it's taken away as your chov. Here by the eved, you're not going to get punished because you're not really benefiting from anything. The guy took it against your will. You didn't care what it was. So therefore, right, that's why it wasn't done. Midato, so you don't have the class. Okay? Tashema. Okay, now we're going to come and bring another proof. The Amar Rav. Rav comes and he says, Hamocher avdo lefarhang oved kochavim. Somebody comes and he sells a slave to one of these guys that oved kochavim, but that they're very deceitful. Deceitful means he could come, right, and he could basically say that, no, you basically gave it to me because you owe me this money. So you basically sold it to him in order to get out of this guy. Yatsa lecherut. Right? Why? Right? Because even though he was paid for it, right? You see here, he's still going to go lecherut. Answers the Gemara, no. Hatam in that case, there, you should have appeased him with money, and you didn't. How did you appease him? You sold him your.
He made on him story, and then he.
No, basically
told
this.
him, don't say the
There's somebody, right, that is a goy, that he likes your slave. So he comes and he tells him, Mordechai, I love your slave. Say, okay, thank you. Now, if you get the hint, this guy is one of these guys that I want your slave. Now, you have two choices. Either you don't give it to him, and then he's going to make up a story that he's going to... Yeah, you're protecting yourself. You think, you know what? If I'm already going to give him the slave, I might as well sell it to him. So here's the slave, $500. You take the $500. Now, technically speaking...
It's a goy.
Well, yeah, it's a goy.
It goes in the Peru.
So said the Gemara, he goes lecherut. Now the question is why? Here also you did it.
You sold it to a goy. Whether
Yeah,
he's a blackmailer or not blackmailer, or you sold it to a goy.
Well, we learned before that if it was going to be taken away from you against your will, that you don't
take against your will. Yeah.
Why?
Because you're doing the transaction, you know it's not against
your
will. Huh?
It is technically
He's a blackmailer, so you know something's going to happen, but in the end, you're doing the transaction. You say, oh, yeah, all right, okay, give me the money.
So the Gemara answers that the only reason why is because you could have gotten out of the problem, which is giving him money on his own. Meaning you know that this guy just wants something. So you have two choices. You made a sale, and that's what exactly you did. So that's why they went, or you could just come and say, here, by the way, I wanted to give you a present. Here's $500. He'll leave you alone. We'll go. You didn't do that. You decided to come and say, you know what? I'll sell you my slave. The second that you did that, now he was doing it willingly. You're right. It was a form of a black. At the end of the day, you did it willingly. You sold your slave. You could have just come and given him money. But the fact that you come and you sold your slave, it goes up to the cherut. Why? Because that's what you decided. Okay? Clear or not?
Yeah, but
Rav just said 1 second. What was the case again? Right? You sold your slave to the farhang. He goes on free. What should he have done? He says, he should have just given him money, and he didn't give him money. Meaning the fact that he went and he sold the slave, it's considered that he did it like that he wanted to do it. He should have just given him money, and that's it. Right? By Rabbi Yirmiyah. So Rabbi Yirmiyah asks, what happens if you only sold him for 30 days? You sold him, but only for 30 days. You say, it's like a sale. Here it is, for 30 days. It's yours. Comes back to me. But it's a goy. So Tashema, we're going to try to bring a proof. He says, if you're going to sell him, he goes al lecharut. Says no, but but there it's never going to come back to you. Meaning it's a how do you call it, a sale which is a everlasting sale? How do you call it? It's a sale. It's a complete sale. Okay. So says the Gemara mecharo chutz mimelachto ma'al. So the truth is we don't even have a proof then. That means we don't have an answer. Meaning if you're only going to sell him for 30 days, we don't have an answer. We don't know yet. Next, mecharo chutz mimelachto. What happens if you sold him the sides for the melacha? The sides for the melacha means you sold the body, right? But only to do with getting him married to a shivcha and children, but not to do with the zechut of the avodah. What is halacha? Is it that at the end of the day you cannot make him work because he didn't make him stop from doing mitzvot to chalel Shabbat, right? Or for example, he's going to come and he's going to be chutz mina mitzvot, except for a mitzvot, which means he made a condition that he's selling him, but he cannot stop him doing any mitzvot. Or chutz mi Shabbatov yomim tovim, ma'ul, same thing, except for Shabbat and Yom Tov, right? That means on Shabbat and Yom Tov he's free. Yeah, he sold him to the goy on condition. Shabbat and Yom Tov, Sabbath and holidays, nada. You don't have to work. Yeah. So what happens? They get a toshav, right? Right. So what's going to happen? He comes and he says, "Lekuti ma'ul." So these are all the questions. Everyone understood? One more time. If the entire concept is that there's a knas because we're stopping him from doing mitzvot, what happens if you did these different kombinot and maybe it doesn't have to stop him from doing mitzvot? For example, you sold him on condition it's only just that you could get him married to a shivcha and you get the children. Everything else still belongs to me. Or you sold him on condition that you cannot stop him doing mitzvot. Or you sold him on condition that he doesn't work on Shabbat and Yom Tov. Or to a kuti. Or to a ger toshav, which means that he believes in Hashem and he does 7 mitzvot ben enoch. Or so in all these cases, what's halacha? Does he go out free or no? Because here you did it on condition. You did it making sure that the guy continues doing everything. So says the Gemara, Pshot mi'achada. We don't have an answer for all the questions that you just asked. You just asked, okay, the first question, which was for 30 days, we didn't give an answer. But then afterwards, Rabbi, we pushed it off. But then afterwards, we come and we said, Chutz mimelachto, mina mitzvot, Shabbatot yomim tovim, ger toshav, Rabbi Yisrael mumar, and kuti. That's 5 cases. He says we could answer one of them. What is the one of them? Ger toshav, hareu kechovei kochavim. A ger toshav is considered like a goy, and he goes up free. Why? Because it makes sense. At the end of the day, the ger toshav was only sheva mitzvah and noach, but not more than that. So you sold him to a ger toshav, and now the Eved comes and he tells the ger toshav, I have to do. Excuse me. I've got 7 mitzvahs, right? I don't have any more than 7 mitzvot. So therefore, this is what you have to do. So you're taking away from the mitzvot. So there, ger toshav is like a goy. Okay. Next, kuti v'Yisrael mumar. What about a kuti or Yisrael mumar? Right? So he says, Amri la. Some people say it's like a v'kochavim. The Amri la ki Yisrael. So some people say it's like a Jew, and some people say it's like a goy. So that's why that means if you say it's like a Jew, he doesn't go free. If you say it's like a goy, he does go free. So then we have that question. Okay, very good. Next case. Yeah. Yeah, next case. Ba'u mineh, yeah, Rabbi Ami. They came and they asked from Rabbi Ami. Eved shipil asmo legiyasot. When you have an Eved, which he threw himself towards the giyasot. Remember the giyasot was like the army or whatever it is. He threw himself towards them.
What's him, no?
No, well, דווקא. זה גידודי נוכלים. זה קבוצה של bandits, but they were outwardly.
The Wagner group.
Wagner? Huh?
You know what
Time. You have an Eved that he threw himself towards one of these giyasot. ואין רבו יכול להוציאו, so the master can't take him out. לא בדיני ישראל, לא בדיני הדרכבים, nothing. מהו שאיתו לדמיו? Is it permitted at least that he should take the money? Right? That means, should he take the money or not? Imagine right now, the slave comes, throws himself to the group, and now you come, you try to take the guy back. You try to take him with secular court, doesn't work. The bedin doesn't work. So at least, should you take the money for him or not? So Elmaleh Rabbi Yomi al Rabbi Zreika says Rabbi Yomi to Rabbi Zreika, Tuk ayen b'mechiltech. Go out and look in halachot that you're bakiin, and try to see what's the answer. Nafak, dak, ve'ashkach. He went out, he looked, and he found. The Tana, as we learned in Abraita, hamocher beito leoved kochavim. If you sell your house, right? Obviously, we're talking about your house in Eretz Yisrael. To oved kochavim, tamav asurim. You're not allowed to receive the money. Ve'oved kochavim shanas beto shel Yisrael. However, the what happens if the oved kochavim stole the house from the Jew? And now you can't take it back. You are allowed to take the money. Right? You come and you write it, but it's like you're saving it. Which means that even though at the end of the day you don't want lechatchila to do that, but you're allowed to actually even go and write a shtar that you sold it to him. Right? Why? So you're at least saving the money from him. Meaning, if you're being forced anyway, like what Mordechai said before, right? If you're being forced anyway, you might as well get some money for it. You might as well get something from it. They're forcing you anyway, so you might as well do it. So says the Gemara, maybe there's one of these words, a house. Because since you cannot live without a house, so what, you're not going to sell it with your own will. So therefore, we're not going to make a gezerah, right? That maybe you're going to take money if it's aval avda, but an eved, that you could stay without a slave. Maybe we're going to sell it, right? So maybe we should make a gezerah. Or lower, maybe not. So which means it is a house. Everyone needs a house. So we're not going to come and start making a decree. Maybe you're doing this bechavana, and then no, he did it. He put a gun to my head. We're not going to suspect that. But a slave, right? You can live without a slave. So maybe we met you come and you tell us, yeah, no, it was they came against me and they wanted to do it. But really, you went and you sold the lechatchila. So maybe we should make a gezerah. So shalach lehu Rabbi Ami. Rabbi Ami said to him, Mini, right? Mimeni, right? Ami bar Natan, right? Torah yotzea lechol Yisrael, right? Torah is going to come out to all of Israel. Eved shipil atzmo le'yasod ve'en rabo yochol yotzea l'bnei Yisrael l'bnei Yehuda chovim. Mutar litol ledamav. You're allowed to take the money. Ve'kotev ma'aleh barakot shavdei chovim mnei shu k'matziv yadav. You're saving the money. At the end of the day, you're saving the money. The guy came. You might as well. So you're saving it. So at least do that. So that's what Rabbi Ami pasked. Interesting. Did you hear how he said it? Mimi Ami bar Natan. From me, Ami bar Natan. This is what the psak is going to be in Israel. Amar V'Shov Levi says V'Shov Levi. Hamocher ovdo lekovei kovim konsim oto b'ad mea bedamav. He says if you're going to sell your slave to the goyim, they're going to give you a knas that you have to actually redeem him until 100 times the value of the slave. It's a powerful number. Until 100 times the value. So it says the Gemara, davka, love davka. Is it davka 100 times or is it no, usually okay, more than the value, but is it davka, love davka? So Tashma Adam Shaki, Shamocher Magasalo de Kovim. You're going to sell Magasalo de Kovim, Consimoto Adasra, you're going to be forced to pay 10 times the amount. So therefore, there you see that whenever they're actually saying it, right, it's only going to be a concept of something that you sold. It was only 10 times the amount, not 100 times. So it means even though we said 100 times, it's probably until 10 times. Was 10 times, even 10 times is a lot of amount, money.
So I don't understand. You sell him as a slave. He's a slave to the goy.
Yes. Now you're obligated to come. No, but you're obligated to come and buy him back. So when you're obligated, no. You if you actually come, you have to actually come and buy him back, and then he's yours. But when you to buy him back, and then when you're coming and you're buying him back, you have to buy him back until 100 times the amount. Says the Gemara, really 100 times?
So when is he in Cherut, the poor guy?
If you're not going to buy him back.
But how do you consider that he's in Cherut? He's a slave to the.
He comes and he says, "The din mashane eved lechol yom v'yom mafkelim mitzvot." Every single day, when you sell him to the goy, every day you're taking him out from doing mitzvot. So therefore, because of that, and that's why maybe be'emet, it's much more than a be'magasa. Be'magasa is just an animal. Okay, so an animal, you have to buy it back until 10 times the amount. Okay? But here, maybe be'emet, it's not like that. Okay? Okay, here be'emet, the Chachamim, they prohibit you to sell a be'magasa to a goy, right? Because since they sell your chayav b'shveta be'emto b'shabbat, if you're going to come and you're going to sell it, they're going to start doing work and everything. So maybe you're going to rent it out to him, then you're going to lend it, and that's a sur. Fine. So now you come and he says like this. He says, some people say, he says, right, they're going to come and force you to come and buy it back until 10 times the amount. Says the Gemara, davka or lav davka. So here was the exact opposite that we saw before. Before we said by the Eved 100 times, by B'magasa 10 times. Now we're saying by the Eved 10 times, B'magasa 100 times. Says the Gemara, Shane Eved de lo adrale. Says no, the Eved will never come back to your possession even after you redeem him. Because we just said that if you sell him, he's going to go lecherut. And therefore, they didn't give such a big knas. Meaning the knas is, he goes out lecherut. Now you're obligated to buy him back. So if you're obligated to come back, and anyway he's going out to freedom, so he said until 10 times the amount. He didn't tell you about 100 times the amount. The animal comes back to you. So because of that, they said even until 100 times the amount, you're obligated to come and to buy him back. But this reasoning of the Bema, right? Because it goes back to you. So so he comes and he says, okay, fine, but just do it one more time. Why did you have to go to 100? You know what it is 100 times the amount? You know what it is 100 times the amount? That's a big number. Yeah? So he says, Ella, but rather, Eved minta de lo shchicha. Really, because the Eved is not something common. This, what you're doing, is not common. So anything which was not common, the rabbis never made decrees on it. The rabbis only made decrees on things which were common. Something which is not common, the rabbis never made decrees on it. Okay? Fine. Ba minei Rabbi Yirmiyah mi Rabbi Yasi. Ask Rabbi Yirmiyah from Rabbi Yasi. Machar avdo. If you come and you sell your slave, Maushi kansu benav acharo. Can we come and we could actually make a knas, right? Umet. Sorry, your person sold the slave and he died. Do we give a knas to the children? They also have to redeem the eved or not? Right, that's the question. Im tim tzaloman. If you're going to tell me, saram ozim bechor. What happens if the Kohen came and he cut off a little bit of the ear of the bechor, right? In order that it becomes a balmum. And therefore, you don't have to bring it to the Bet HaMikdash. Umet, now the Kohen dies. Kansu benu acharav, do we make a knas on the children afterwards that they're not allowed to do shechita? Because the father came and he put a mum in kochim? Right? Mishum the yisura doraita, because at the end of the day, to put a mum in a bechor is a doraita. And therefore, they came and they gave a knas. Aval hacha, but here, it's only yisur drabanan. Meaning, for you to come and to sell a slave, is a Isur that? That's a Isur Doraita or Isur Rabbanan? Isur Rabbanan. It's not Doraita. Right? There was a Knas from the Rabbanan. You're taking away from Mitzot, Chule. But here, though, right, when we're talking about now putting a mum and coaching, that's Doraita. The Kohen comes, cuts off the ear of the Bechor that he was given to him, and now he doesn't have to bring him back to Midash. That's Doraita. So, in both cases, the owner dies. So, by the case of the Kohen, do we give a knas to the children that they can't do shechita to this animal? Because the father put a mum in coaching, right? But there it's Doraita. So maybe yes. Here it's the Rabbanan, but here it's only a knas of the Rabbanan. So that's the question. Do we give a knas to the children that they have to come and redeem the Eved, the slave? 44b. If you're going to tell me, what about if somebody does his melacha during Chol Hamoed? We know that you're not allowed to do any melacha in Chol Hamoed, because if not, a lot of people, that's what they're going to do. They're going to wait for Chol Hamoed, and that's what they're going to do melacha. Melacha is a sur on Chol Hamoed. So do we give now a knas? There, we didn't give a knas to the child. Meaning, if you come and you started it right before the Moed, that you weren't going to finish until it's going to, and then it's going to become Hefsed. So now it's going to be mutar, because it's Hefsed. But we're going to give you a knas, right? Now the question is, what happens if the person dies? Do we give a knas to the child or not? One more time. Melechet aved, right? Davar aved is mutar on Chol Hamoed. Imagine right now you started a melacha purposely 2 or 3 days right before Chag. Right before Pesach, you start a melacha. And now you come to me, Rabbi, I've got a problem. Melechet aved. If I'm not going to finish it now during Chol Hamoed, it's going to all go to waste. So the rabbi doesn't know that you did it purposely. But what's halacha? Listen, melechet aved mutar. Why? Davar aved mutar. 1 second, he did it purposely. So if you did it purposely, you should give him a knas. But now the guy died, and now it's a child. So you're going to give a knas to the child? Because the father did that or not? So mishum de lo avad isur. At the end of the day, the father did not do a real isur because he died before the moed. So if he died beforehand, aval hachamai. But over here, what's halacha? Ledidei kansur banan. The rabbis give a knas to him, and he's not here anymore. He died. Well, or maybe the mamona kansur banan. The rabbis give a knas as money, and at the end of the day, the money's still here. Meaning, who's the knas on? Is it on the person or is it on the money? That's the question. Is it on the person or on the money? Okay. So Elmaleh comes and he says 32. We already learned it in the Mishnah, right? I'm sure, by the way, right? So here, are you going to say that it's the money that was given the knas and not the person, and the money's still here? So Elmaleh says 32. We already learned it. Sadeh shenikavtza b'shvit. If you have a sadeh that they took the kotzim, they took the thorns out of it on Shvit, during Shemitah. Tizara lemotzei Shvit. You could plant it on Motzei Shvit, on Motzei Shemitah. Nitaiva, but if they came and they fertilized it, right? Or nidaira, or they made it into a deed of animals, which means like a place of animals to come and to do all these things. Lo tizra, you're not allowed to do it. You're not allowed to plant it on Motzei Shvit. We have a halacha, we have from our rabbis, hetiva umet. What happens if you did this and the person died? Beno zoro, his son could come and plant the field. Meaning the father that did the avera, we don't give a knas to the son. Okay? So almas, you see from him, they did a kansur banan. The rabbis made him a knas. Libre lo kansur banan, but they didn't do it to his son. The truth is it's not really connected, because technically speaking, here, right, it's a knas for him or to his son. Here, it's for him or to his money. And it doesn't go to the son until the money doesn't pay off all the debts. So I don't know, but okay, that's what the Gemara is saying. So the Gemara is going to bring another case which is similar. Amar Abaye. Abaye comes and he brings another case. Taktinan, right? Remember, we have a masoret. Timeh tarot shel chavro. Imagine I come and I'm going to be metameh tarot of my friend. So imagine somebody comes and he does that, and then he dies. Right? That person comes and he dies. Lo kansura banam beno acharav. They didn't give him knas. My time, what's reasoning? Hezek shenu nekal shma hezek. Remember, we learned this a few days ago. Hezek, which is not recognizable, is not called hezek. Uknasa mid rabbanani, and knas is considered the rabbanan. And the rabbis only give him a knas. The levrei lo kansur banan. But the rabbis did not come, right, and did not give any knas, right, to the son. Okay, 2 dots. Well, that's what we said. We didn't actually have an answer on that. Yeah, we do. Shavit is also Doraita. We said that they didn't give knas to the son.
They don't get.
We don't give the knas to the son. And Shavit is Doraita. So it comes out that the same halacha, you're right. In Achanami, by the Bechor or not, they don't give the knas to the son. Okay? Next, 2 dots. Hamocher abdo lechutz haaretz. You sell your slave, or you sold him to chutz haaretz. If you're going to come, you're going to sell your slave to chutz haaretz. Yatza lecherut. He goes out to lecherut. You need an emancipation letter, a freedom letter from your second master. Rashbag comes and he says, sometimes he goes out to cherut and sometimes not. Kate said, what's the case? Amar ploni avdi mechartiu liploni antochi. Imagine he comes and he says, listen, if it's written on the shtar mechira, he sold his slave to this guy. Lo yatsa, he doesn't go to the cherut. Why? Because it's mashma that it was nimkar leploni, which is called antochi, because he was sold, it was born in Antochia. But it's not lav dafka that right now he actually lives there. So it doesn't mean that he's taking him to Antochia, right? So that's like, they're going to say, he sold it to the Tunisian. Does he live in Tunisia? Not anymore. He's, you understand? L'antochi shebe Antochia, but if it's written, I sold it to Antochi in Antochia, yatsa. He goes to lecherut. So ask the Gemara Batani, we learned in a Braita, mechartiu le'antochi yatsa, le'antochi shoy belu lo yatsa. I thought if it says if you sold him to Antochi, he does go out to lecherut. That means, what are you telling me? Antochi just means the Tunisian, right? Here it says he does go on lecherut. Only if he says Antochi, which is in Lod, which is in Eretz Yisrael, then you don't go out. So it says Melachashia. It all depends. If this Antochi has a house in Israel, so therefore I'm going to say, no, he's not taking him anywhere. So therefore it's here. But if he only has like an achsania, something like, he only rented a house for a few months, he's taking him back. So he goes off free. It all depends. If he has a house, he's fixed him. So that's fine. But if he doesn't, and he's only, so no. By Rabbi Yirmiyah. Rabbi Yirmiyah comes and he asks, Ben Bavel shenasa isha beretz Yisrael. Imagine you have a person from Bavel that he gets married to a woman in Israel. And she brings him in as an dunya, avadim u'shvachot. Now he wants to go back to Bavel. So imagine you have a Iraqi getting married to a Yerushalmit. She's bringing him avadim u'shvachot. And then what happens? They want to go back to live in Bavel. So what's going to happen now?
What's the question? They go back with them and that's it.
But I thought that if you sold it to Chutz Haaretz, you go free.
She didn't sell them, she brought them.
But it doesn't matter. But is that considered the fact that she's bringing into the marriage avadim u'shvachot and she's taking them to Chutz Haaretz? Is that considered that she's like selling them? I mean, she's like bringing it into like a purchase or not? That's the question. So says the Gemara, we have a safek whether we're going to say, okay, fine. What happens if they get divorced? And she wants everything that she brought in, right? So that, and he cannot stay with everything. So what happens? Hadinima or hadinimo? So whether you say the dinima or dinimo, that's also a question. Why? Right? He says like this: given the dinima, since it's like hers, so it's considered hers, right? Because if she becomes an amana grusha, it's still hers. So therefore, she never sold it to the husband. And if you don't have to take them out to freedom, or Dilmar maybe given the mishadeh since they're mishuabadim for fruits to the husband, and who works these slaves? The husband. So it's like considered his, right? So therefore we have a doubt. That means even if you're going to tell me that it goes back to her, if she becomes widowed or divorced, maybe we still say that they go free. Because at the end of the day, the avadim are subjugated to the husband for fruits. But we have a doubt whether it's going to be a dinimo that it belongs to him. Kevin the dinimo, since it's like his. But since at the end of the day, the body does not belong to him, it's considered still hers. Take we don't have an answer. We don't have an answer. Okay, fine. Amar Rabbi Yavu says Rabbi Yavu, Shanali Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan came and he taught me, Eved shiatza charabo leSuria umcharo sham rabo. That's a lechirut. Imagine you have an Eved that he followed his master from Eretz Yisrael to Surya, and he sold him there. He goes out to free as well, which means even though the Eved came out at the beginning, midato, meaning willingly, meaning the master didn't tell the Eved, I'm forcing you to leave. The Eved came with the master on his own accord. And then afterwards there, when he got to Surya, that's when he sold the slave. He still goes out free. I thought if he came out on his own will, you lost your free rights. Meaning you did it to yourself. You walked out on your own. So that's it. So says the Gemara, like it's not a question. Kan shedat rabo lachzor, kan shedat she'en dat rabo lachzor. It all depends whether the master wants to come back or not. If the master wanted to come back to Israel, so he goes out free. Why? Because that means kilu that he sold him to Chutzaretz. But if the master was going to stay in Syria, right, in Syria, so there's no difference. What's the difference whether he's going to be by his master in Syria or by the other guy in Syria? It's the same thing. So then he doesn't go out free. Okay? Ask the Gemara, Tanya, but I thought as we learned, I thought you said that he's going out to after his master to Syria, right? So he says Yotze is mashma that he's going against his will. Lo sagi de lo nafik. He says what? Are you going to tell me that he can't stay? Go out? But we learned nobody could force you, which means that they can't force you to leave Israel. So it's just like they can't force him to leave Israel. There's nothing what to do. If the Eved came out after his master to Syria and he sold him over there, in that rabo lachzor, if the master wants to go back to Israel, kofinoto, we're going to force him. If he doesn't want to go out, en kofinoto, we're not going to come and we're not going to force him to go out. Why? Because since the Eved yatsa imo miritzono, not al dat lachzor, he lost out his zechuyot.
So he sold it in Syria to a Jew.
Yes. Because if it's a goy anyway, he goes on.
Exactly.
Yeah, to a Jew.
So how is he going to come back? He sold him.
So he comes and he says, right, Amar Ravanan, it says Ravanan, Shamit Mina, we learn from here, the Shmuel Tarti, we learn from Shmuel two different things. Chadahach, one of them, this psak of Mocher Avdo Lechutzaretz, V'hidach, and the second one, if you're going to sell your field during Yovel, Rav Amar says, Mechurav Yotza. You sell it, and immediately goes back to you. That means the buyer lost all his money. Here's a good trick. Yeah, I just gave you a good trick in the books, David. You sell your field during Yovel, you just sold it, I just paid you whatever it is, $100,000 for the field. You come, you say thank you, you take the field back. And thank you for your money.
זה מה שעושים בפוסבול הזה, לא?
No. פוסבול is not the field.
לא, אז אוקיי, לא בפוסבול.
פוסבול is for שמיטה.
שנת שמיטה בישראל, מוכרים את זה לגוי, פיקטיבי, ואז אתה מחזיר את זה.
Exactly. ושמואל אמר, שמואל comes and he says, אינה מכורה, right? כל עיקר. It's not going to be sold.
אבל זה, אבל בשנת שמיטה בישראל.
Yeah, it's not going to be sold. Okay? בחדה hadre zevine, and one of the things that Shmuel comes and he says, that when it's going to go back, one of them he says it retracts, and one of them he says it doesn't track. But I don't know which one it is. Meaning, in one of these two cases, there was a psak din that it does retract to the purchaser. And one of them, it doesn't, but I don't know which one. So Amr of Yosef says to Yosef, let's try to work it out. I mean, the Tanya right, since we said on the right, if you sold your slave to Chutzaretz, so it comes out that the second master actually purchased him. The lo hadrezine, and it doesn't, the money does not go back. Because if they would go back, right, so then it would go back to the first master, right? And then you wouldn't obligate the second master to come and give a get shifru, right? So since Ravanan came and he said that I heard in one of the cases that it does go back, and in the Braita it's muchach that the Eved does not go back, so it comes out that obviously we're talking about that an Eved does not go back, like the Braita. So when does Shmuel come and say over there to do Yovel and a mechura, it's the field is not going to be sold, and they do go back to the original owner. Okay, and then we're going to explain the entire thing with Rav Anan tomorrow. Have a wonderful day.